grand yesterday.
Yeah.
Playing whatever made up sports there were.
You and I would make a good pairing on that because my analysis for fantasy football is a lot different.
Yeah. In a weird way, I'd be better off hosting that show.
Yeah. We could
and
try.
you as the analyst.
We could try it. That'd be fun. Wearing
different pants. That's fun. But no, I'd be in because I think it'd just be entertaining for the two of us.
It would be fun. Let's do it.
I'll get in a best ball draft. I don't care.
Oh, they're fun, man. They are fun. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Awesemo.com NBA strategy show presented by No House Advantage. I am Dave Loughran, joined by Joshua Engleman, and we've got game 2 coming at you today. Bucks, Phoenix Suns just took a 1-0 lead in the desert, Josh, and that house was rocking. I know you said Phoenix, no home court advantage, doesn't matter. I don't know. Maybe you're right. It's probably different than Philly or Boston or a few other venues, but they're stoked out there in Phoenix. Matter of fact, I tweeted something that was along the lines of Chris Paul is playing like he has finally made the finals after 16 years. Wasn't an insult, wasn't a backhanded compliment, but several people assumed that I was, being disparaging towards their Chris Paul and towards their Phoenix Suns. I mean, people are all in on the Suns this year if they are either bandwagon fans, whatever it is, or just legitimate true fans that have been waiting a very long time. But yeah, it's been pretty serious out there in Phoenix.
It really has. Chris Paul was obviously fantastic in game 1. I'm not entirely sure that he continues to make every sort of 3 and mid-range shot that he takes. He had 76% true shooting in game 1. It was something in that range in the closeout game in the previous series. Like he's shooting the shit out of the ball right now. And when it's going in like that, it's really hard to stop.
Yeah, he was superb. I had someone text me on Tilt, like, dude, went Chris Paul over Booker. There's no way he can make up for that after the first quarter. I was like, plenty of time, guy. Plenty of time. He had 0 points in the first quarter, finished with 32. So yeah, he shot really well. Defensively, Chris Paul played really well. And, that conversation you and I had about Drew Holiday and Chris Paul, the truth is there was very, very little question in that game, at least, who looked like the much better player.
Yeah, I retweeted a tweet. I can't remember who said it now, but Jeff Teague was the first Wake Forest point guard to score in that game, which was not something that anybody would have been predicting before it started. And I thought that was pretty funny. And then Chris Paul obviously went crazy after the first quarter. But yeah, you didn't expect Jeff Teague to get on the scoreboard before Chris Paul.
Are you looking at this series now any differently than you were after game 1?
No, not at all.
Really?
Or
before game 1, I'm sorry.
I didn't see anything in game 1 that made me think the series is any different. Like, obviously the Bucks are less likely to win the series after losing game 1 for sure. Like the math changes, but I didn't think the Suns did anything or the Bucks did anything where I was just like, oh, I have a different outlook on this series. I think that game was a lot closer than people think it was.
Yo, did you see how many Awesemo avatars chopped first place on? And it was like,
it was a sponsored contest for us.
Yeah, it was insane. We had so many. I wasn't on any shows yesterday. I did the fantasy football, the underdog draft, the mock draft. Well, it wasn't a mock draft. It was actually a draft. We just titled it mock draft for SEO purposes. It's all the same, right? Check that video out, by the way. And thank you, Christian, saying that video was dope with Matt. Thanks, dude. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And the drafts only take 50 minutes. It's 30-second timers. It's really fun. We picked out of the 1 spot. So, it's definitely a unique position to draft at, but check that out. It's on this channel, as a matter of fact, but we have the Awesemo Fantasy Football channel as well. Our boy, I'm a Tulsa Dog, knows all about it, man. He's been knee deep in the fantasy football content, just like myself.
Yeah.
And Jeffrey, I'm having my coffee now. I made a big mistake, Josh. Got up early, didn't sleep too great, and then decided I would take a small nap prior to the show. You never wake up feeling refreshed after, say, an hour-long nap. It's always a mistake, and I'm always a sucker for it.
Yeah, but it's so much fun. It feels so nice to lay down and get comfortable again. But yeah, I'm with you. The moment you do that, you're coming out of the gates a lot worse. Is this a 2 Red Bull show for you now? Is that what it's going to have to be?
Coffee. I didn't even have time to go get any, so I'm doing coffee, and I don't even like coffee.
I assume you get those things like airdropped in.
No, I stopped drinking them for a long time. Then came the baby. I stopped drinking them for like a good year and a half. But
I go get like saline and stuff after a night of drinking. I'm surprised you don't have a Red Bull IV right now.
They don't make you feel better after drinking. My drinking therapy.
Shocked.
My drinking therapy. But neither does coffee for me. Neither does coffee after a night of drinking.
No.
As long as I'm not too drunk to get up the steps, I chug a bottle of, or I do a liquid IV in a bottle of water, chug that. And then right behind it, I chug another bottle of water. Okay. And I wake up in the morning, chug another bottle of water with a couple Tylenol. And I actually, most of the times, feel pretty good. That's a good solution right there that I've worked out over the years.
Yours costs what sounds like $2.50 and mine costs $100.
Exactly. And I bet we get similar results.
I bet you we don't.
I bet we do. Bro, no. I got trashed on Friday night, woke up, felt great, mowed the lawn, set up the tent for the ensuing party. I don't know. I think I could make a good argument for it. Try my method out once instead of splurging $100 and tell me how you feel. How did we get here?
Who knows?
What was I talking about when I started? Jordan, what was I talking about?
Coffee, not getting sleep, naps.
No, before that, before the fantasy football content, before any of that, I would assume it had something to do with basketball.
I don't know. I wasn't listening either way.
Yeah, I guess not. Have you looked at the series line?
I have.
Okay.
I've looked at everything, man. This is the only thing I know.
Does DK still not have a series lineup?
They did earlier. Yeah, you can't look in series lines because it doesn't really matter. It's just who wins the NBA title.
Oh, so right. I forgot they're doing it like that. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay. What's it at now?
Bucks are plus 260.
Okay. I guess that's not insane, right?
No, not at all. I mean, I'd be more likely to just take like Bucks in 7 at plus 700 or something.
The problem is, what are the Suns at?
Minus 335.
335 and see,
you can get them at plus 400 to win 4-2. Bless you.
I don't hate that. What's that?
I said bless you.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Yeah,
I don't hate that at all. I think 4-2 is actually, and granted, who the hell knows, right? But the Bucks are not getting swept, and if they do, well, you have me saying that they're not getting swept. I just have a very tough time believing they get swept in this series. But I also think that people have simply not given the Suns enough credit, and maybe I'm one of them. Now, I also think the Bucks just don't deserve as much credit as they've gotten. So it kind of goes hand in hand here. Maybe that's a cop-out, Josh. But the Suns are a very good basketball team. Like, forget about the way that I see the wheels churning in your head.
No, just Anthony Marcus makes me hate him. So it's pretty easy. Not what I said.
The Suns are really good. Like they're a really good basketball team. And I think it's like they're the only team to, not make the playoffs for however many straight years and then make it to the finals. I don't know the exact numbers, but what they're doing is pretty insane.
The thing that's surprising me the most, and we talked about it for game 1, I'm shocked that the Suns are 5.5 point favorites. I can't wrap my head around that. What is this line if Giannis isn't playing? It's like they're implying that it's like 7 or 8, which is mind blowing to me.
Well, this is kind of the crazy thing, right? Last game, if Jordan, what I need you to Jordan's not there.
Great work, Jordan.
Jordan, what I need you to do, look, it's not your fault. He's always. What I need you to do is go keep that on the screen, right? Go back to the 6th and see what the closing line was on this game, because I'm looking at it now, right? And I'm seeing 5. I see a 4.5. It didn't move that much. It didn't move as much as I thought it would either. So I don't know, man. Like FD, Blue site also has DFS content. Ever heard of it? Closed at 5.
Yeah, I thought that line was going to move a lot, which means that they were assuming he was in the entire day, which I don't think that they're like 7 point. There's like a 7-point gap here. This is the Suns are about to be favorites in Milwaukee.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Very close to it.
Yeah.
I'm flabbergasted.
It's crazy. Even if the Bucks come in and win this game, game 3 is probably a pick 'em.
The Suns beat them twice during the regular season, and they're hard to beat at home. Why is the spread so hard to get?
Well, regular season means literally nothing.
Somebody didn't play in one of those games, and I think Giannis left one of them early too.
It just doesn't mean anything. Like it doesn't. Budenholzer would run like a 90-man rotation at times. It doesn't mean a damn thing. It really doesn't. Plus, Ayton's a lot better than he was in the regular season. But
that's very true.
I think a lot of it, and granted, if you want to use that as an argument to say that the Suns should be favored by that much, it's fine. Honestly, Josh, I don't think it's that crazy because I just don't think the Bucks are that good. Like the Bucks are the type of team that if you bet them outright as a 5.5-point dog, and this series went 6, they probably cover sorry, not 5.5-point dog, whatever the money line would be if they were a 5.5-point dog, right? If you bet that every game, they probably win 2 of those for you. And maybe even one of those in blowout fashion because Chris Middleton or Drew goes off, or you get a big game somewhere else. But like, they're just such an incredibly inconsistent basketball team that I don't think it's that crazy. The Bucks just aren't that good. They're good. They're not that good.
I don't know what to make of it all. Apparently that is true. I don't know how that's true, but apparently it's true.
I don't know. But
like Chris Paul, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, Giannis, Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday. Up until 2 weeks ago, no one is taking the Suns group of 3 before the Bucks group of 3.
Dude, I hear you, but there is very much something just about the way a team plays together. Some of it might not be quantified. Sure. Some of it's not quantifiable. Some of it can't be explained away just, on paper. But like Chris Middleton made some nice shots, but he also had some outright awful possessions where he turned the ball. He has 12 turnovers in his last 2 games. I mean, granted, the one with against Atlanta, I don't really blame him for it because there's no Giannis. You're going to make that's type of stuff.
He has the ball half the game.
Exactly.
You're going to turn him over by default.
But in a spot like this, in game 1, some of those turnovers were really bad, man. Like some of the Bucks possessions seem dead before they even get started in the half court. You don't really feel that way with the Suns.
No, they were 93 points per 100 possessions in the half court in game 1. That's a 36th percentile outcome.
Awful.
They did not make a putback.
All game. With Giannis on the floor.
All game. Nothing. They basically didn't get offensive rebounds, which is not ideal. And in theory, they should have. They're bigger than the Suns in that regard. And a lot of that was just Drew Holiday missing every single shot he took once he got into the paint.
Yeah, it's not good.
No.
JG says CP3 suck-off session ends tonight. Is Adam Scher in the chat with a burner?
I mean, I have under Chris Paul points in the breakfast menu for today.
I'm not even talking about the CP3 part. I'm talking about that one tweet he sent out to a prominent fantasy football person that got back to. Do you not remember?
Oh yeah. That was great. It was so great.
Hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so yet. We're about to dive into this game right now. So I don't know. It might not be out of the realm of possibilities that we get this up to 100 and have you guys subscribe to this channel. We're north of 56,000 subscribers. Appreciate you. Much obliged. And we're making our way to 60,000 subs. We have some amazing content, free content in the works here on YouTube. here and on the fantasy football channel, Awesemo Fantasy Football. Follow that. It's drafting season, boys and girls. It's time to get deep into that. Even our boy Josh Engleman is going to be buckling down, doing some best ball drafts because they're just a lot of fun. So we're going to do as much of that as we possibly can along the way. And hopefully you'll join us for it. I got a ton of short form dumper videos or smoke break videos. So does Matt Kajeski to get you ready. And yeah, come along for the ride. It's going to be a lot of fun. And hey, let's start this first with a little shout out to everyone who got us over 1,000 likes on the Live Before Lock show on Thursday. We hit it. We hit almost 1,100, right? Insane. Yes. 2,400 people were watching that at once towards the end of the show. Josh and I were riding high after that one. That was awesome. That was a lot of fun. Thanks to you. Also, though, shout out to our sponsor, No House Advantage. Man, what a perfect opportunity now to take advantage of something like this. First of all, you get a No House Advantage deposit bonus, $20 when you sign up using the promo code Awesemo, AWESEMO. But Josh, I don't know how many times I've said it, but for everybody new here, they need to know. These props, there's no salary cap, but it's a tournament style thing. You put them into a lineup. These props don't change throughout the day. So no matter what news happens, no matter what news breaks, they stay exactly the same. There's a legitimate edge there. You've got all the free tools at Awesemo, the player prop, No House Advantage player prop tool, the projections, the optimal lineup tool, all of that. And more than anything else, I guarantee you there were a lot of people that just forgot to go back in and change those props. Or just overcorrected and made huge adjustments that made no sense on No House Advantage the other day. And once again, you put yourself in a great position to make some money and really build that bankroll. And you can do it again today. Specifically, go check out the Bobby Portis props, which are set as if Giannis isn't playing. Bobby Portis under 9.5 rebounds seems pretty reasonable considering I have him projected for 3.5. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. No brainers. And I don't know how many times I have to say this either. People are going to miss that. Don't give the field as much credit as you think they deserve. Most people, a lot of people are going to find that and they're going to hit it, but a lot of people aren't. So when you get those gimmies in there and you throw them up top at the top of your lineup, you can be different elsewhere, right? Like you don't have to be chalky everywhere, but you also don't have to go crazy everywhere. I remember people sending lineups trying to be contrarian on other sites, and it's like everyone's sub 5% owned. Totally unnecessary, Josh. And that's the same thing you can do with these gimmies over at No House Advantage. Yeah, it doesn't. The concept of being contrarian gets lost on some people by thinking that it has to be clear across the board, when in all actuality, it doesn't even have to be remotely close to that. The odds are already long enough to get that specific set of events correct that you don't need to just be swinging for the fences. Like, well, maybe Drew Holiday gets hurt and Jeff Teague is playing 28 minutes. It's like, just immediately stop right there. You're never going to win money. Exactly. Exactly. I'm trying to dismiss the pinned message so I can see the first super chat that we have. It says Toonie for the algorithm. I'm assuming that's TO Deck, but I don't want to give credit where credit's not due. Maybe Jordan can find that, but thanks for that. Doan says with the super chat, had to hit with a shout out. 4x ROI game one. Chris Paul Giannis swap from the nuts. Truly felt I understood the slate. Thanks to both shows. Thanks, fellas. Well, thanks for the super chat, man. And one more, Josh. Then we get straight into this, and we're one away from 100 likes, so that would be a good starting point. Yeah, and a toonie is a Canadian $2. Yeah. Yeah. Great try, Jordan. Right? Yeah, I learned that one here on the strategy show. Toonies are the $2, and they're coins too. Craziness. Who uses that? Their paper money looks like Monopoly money. So lost by a swap, had CP3 and MVP. Yeah, right. I mean, what we use is no better at all. Well, what most are using. Lost by a swap, had CP3 at MVP and Giannis at pro. It hurt more than playing 20 lineups and having every single one fall out of a contest completely. Yeah, dude, the swaps are not a good feeling, but no, you live to see another day. And if it makes you feel any better, if you finished like 30th and you're like, if I just made this swap, I would have finished first. Well, second place through 29th are saying the exact same thing as you are, right? So the what if scenario plays for everybody ahead of you as well. Unless you finish second place, then, well, I don't know what to tell you. Oh, God, there's just some bad takes in YouTube chat right now. What? Give me one, and we dive into this slate.
Giannis needs a lot of work. Can't shoot or handle the ball, which is mildly true. He lacks the intangibles is one of the dumbest things that I've ever seen. That dude works incredibly hard. Everyone knows that he's working as hard as he can. He doesn't care that he's in Milwaukee. He's not getting caught up in the trappings of life. The intangible, if you mean like generic NBA basketball skills, those aren't intangibles. You're looking for like fundamentals is maybe the word you're trying to see. He lacks the fundamentals, but the intangibles, no one thinks that Giannis is soft. They're counting out his free throws every day. He doesn't give a shit. He's still knocking them down. He doesn't care that he gets to the line where Ben Simmons skirts away from it. If you want to say fundamentals, that's fine, but intangibles is not the correct word there.
I always find intangibles to be it's such a nondescript word when you're thinking about what it means for basketball.
It's the word people use when they want to be right and have no facts to back it up.
Like, what would you consider an intangible attribute for basketball?
It's like heart,
toughness.
Right. Like, it's bullshit like that.
Josh, the X factor, maybe?
Yeah, that's so stupid. I
actually almost tweeted the other day that the fact that they're counting him down like that, and he's not going to make them all because it's Giannis, but he's unfazed by it. If that were Ben Simmons, he might actually shit in his shorts.
Yeah. Giannis goes straight back to the line. He's not skirting away from that. By the way, they should count down from 10, not up. And then once they get past 1, they should all make like a big noise.
Remember the movie Grown Ups? No, you don't watch movies. Jordan knows what I'm talking about.
Well, no, I mean, like, I would never watch that.
The buzzer? Oh, all right. Anyway, I agree with you. But they just keep counting up. And I've heard him even get to 12 at times. So. All right. I think this matchup is basically Giannis versus Up Dog. So Kevin S., our friend, would love for me to say, "What's up, dog?" And then you say, "Nothing much." What about you? The Office.
Fantastic that we're all 7 years old.
Yeah. Well, the Office episode about that is great, where Michael keeps getting it wrong no matter what.
Nothing that The Office does is good.
What?
What?
You just said The Office is a bad show?
Yes.
All right, Jordan, just kill this. I don't even want to do a show with Josh anymore. That is absurd.
I hate it.
The Office, you're saying, is just a bad show.
Yes.
I can't with you. Why? How? It's great.
There is not a character on television I like less than Michael Scott.
Michael Scott in season 1 was very unlikable. There's no doubt about that.
And I want to be clear here. I watched the entire show.
You watched every season?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, we should just mute Josh. This is absurd. We should just cut to a lot of people think several people, I'm surprised, actually agree with you. Sean says The Office lacks the intangibles. See, you could use that for anything. You really can. All right, whatever. I'm not going back to that. I think The Office was hilarious. Episode 17 of season 3, the fire drill, is one of the greatest things ever, where Dwight Schrute just puts the firecrackers in the trash can, and Michael, that's one of the greatest episodes I've ever seen of any comedy. And I generally hate comedy TV shows. They did it right. They didn't do a laugh track. That's why it was good. All right, Josh, let's dive. We'll maybe one day we'll pick this conversation back up, but we've got to get started. Captain spot today. How much different is it than game 1? Are we going back to Giannis? Is it Paul, Booker? The crazy thing too about last game was, if you had Giannis at captain, he had essentially the same fantasy score as Chris Paul, right? And there were a few other spots that were just also like DeAndre Ayton. Was he optimal in the captain spot? No, but if you look back on that, you're like, okay, solid game from Ayton, just monster rebounding totals. There were a number of big games there. It's funny that Devin Booker was the one who actually fizzled out down the stretch, and Chris Paul, Giannis, and Ayton were the one that kept it up through 4 quarters.
Yeah, it was a really weird game. I mean, obviously Ayton went insane at that salary. I was happy with my thought process on getting to DeAndre Ayton. Really, Drew Holiday was the only piece of that game that was really a problem. You asked me who my fade was. I said that it was Jay Crowder. He was an abject failure in that game. So I felt pretty good other than Holiday for the way that game shook out.
How much should we be worried about Holiday again today with Giannis playing? And it is worth noting, you were right about those minutes, played 35 minutes. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how many minutes you get from Giannis today. It's hard to believe he only gets 35 minutes again in a true must-win spot.
I gave him 36 for today. I think that we see his minutes start to creep up for games 3 and 4 because of the gap between the games. So we get an extra day's rest before game 3. So we've got off Friday and Saturday now. And then they don't play again until Wednesday. So you get Monday and Tuesday off. I think that's when we start to see Giannis ramp up. So I still have him at just 36 minutes for today.
Okay. All right. Thomas, South Park is the best comedy ever made, hands down. I don't disagree. If you're talking about television shows, 100% with you there. Can't disagree.
55% good show for The Office in the poll that we ran.
Yeah, I know. Indifferent was up there as well, I believe. So
yeah.
Some of these poll responses are crazy. Yesterday I ran one that was, can Clyde Edwards-Helaire be a top 10 running back? And it was like 55% said no, which is the most I know you're not deep into football yet, but truly egregious. Andy Reid has produced more quality like RB1s than probably any coach ever. So yeah, the answer is yes. If you answered no, I'm telling you the answer is yes. What are we doing? Go ahead.
By the way, I got my AirPods back.
Oh, look at you, man. Yeah. You don't look like a nerd anymore.
I mean, I'm sure I do.
No. You look studly. What are we doing?
There we go.
What are we doing at captain though? For real. Like, there are a lot of good options that we can go back to once again, pull up ownership and you're going to see.
It's crazy today.
Yeah, I know. But what are you doing at captain right now?
So the price changes have been really interesting. And the fact that Giannis is sort of, I don't want to say limited, but I think his minutes are limited, which kind of keeps him in check. I have 6 guys north of 10% chance of being the optimal captain. We have not been seeing that. We've been seeing days where like 30, 40% going to one guy. Giannis at 18, Middleton 16, Holiday 16, Booker 19, Paul 10, DeAndre Ayton 11. So like Giannis is pulling the most ownership. I think he's a little over-owned. I think Chris Middleton might be a little under-owned at captain. I think Chris Paul is properly owned at 10%. I think DeAndre Ayton is once again under-owned at captain. But you have, to me, 6 legitimate captain options. Those main 6 guys, the big 3 on both teams, make up 91% of my optimal captain ownership. And I don't think that any of them are all that like specifically good or bad. That's hard. I also think the chops are going to be pretty low here as long as chalk doesn't go through the roof.
Really? Just because there's so many different viable captains. Yeah.
Yeah. Like if DeAndre Ayton is the optimal captain and he's 7% owned, like right away, the amount of chops that you're going to have are pretty low. We've got all these guys in like the 20 to 30% range in ownership. If one piece of like chalk goes poorly, I don't think it's going to be like, oh, we're chopping 100,000 and you win $60 tonight. I don't think that slate is set up today.
You know, it's crazy too. Like the Bucks have been one of the best rebounding teams all season and really one of the best at preventing rebounds. When you're one of the best rebounding teams, especially on the defensive boards, you're going to prevent offensive rebounds. You're going to take them away from your opponent. But that last game, Ayton had 19 boards. He absolutely dominated the glass all game long. Milwaukee actually out-rebounded them, I believe. Yeah, 47 to 43? Yeah, it was. But I was just shocked by the fact that Ayton just ate up as many boards as he wanted. I don't know if that remains the case today. And maybe it will. Maybe it will. He has rebounded really, really well recently. His past 4 games, he's been rebounding like a maniac. He's going to play around 40 minutes. Like the double-double upside is just massive here. His stock upside isn't crazy, but I think you keep going back to the point that you and I have talked about so often. forget about some of these other things. What do their prices look like? I mean, Holiday has come down to 8,800 on DraftKings. Ayton's 9,200, up from 8,400 last game. So that's a pretty significant price hike. Middleton's down 600. Booker's up 800. Chris Paul is up 600 from last game. And Giannis is, I think, floating around right where he was to begin. He's up 200. So everybody basically but Drew and Middleton among those top tier players has actually gone up in salary. Some of them considerable amount.
Yeah. And that's part of what's flattening all of this out, because everybody looks so much more similar. And like, there's not a lot of separation between Booker, Paul, Ayton, Middleton, and Drew in terms of projection. Like, these guys are all within 3 or 4 fantasy points from each other. And then no one is like, Giannis is clearly projected for more than anybody else. And no one's going to think otherwise. And then you get this other group of 5 guys that is all pretty much the same. And then no one is close to those guys. There's just, it's 1, then 5, and then everybody else. And that's creating this really weird balance.
A very strange balance, no question. And hey, Jeff Williams with the nice super chat there. Thanks, Jeff. Says this show is a great equivalent to The Office. Well, if you're like me and you like The Office, that's a great compliment. If you're like Josh and you hate The Office, it's an insult. But anyway, he said the last rebound Chris Paul grabbed over Ayton pushed Alex to a solo win in the 555 on DK. Yeah, I saw that. I think it was a 50K win for our boy Awesemo. So
that's why he's the best in the world, man. He knew that was going to happen.
I know. He actually said that on a show.
Yeah, he called that. So I'm going to get it. I'm going to win by a rebound in the final 5 seconds of the game.
Just kidding. Gabriel, who gets the Saric minutes? Good question. He said, I think Craig over Kaminsky, but I think the field will be heavy on Kaminsky. More minutes for Ayton, ? Thanks, fellas. The Office is great. Yeah, good question. And thanks for the super chat, man.
So it's going to be a couple things. I don't think it really changes anything for Torrey Craig. They're going to do 2 things. They're going to do their only 2 options. I think Frank Kaminsky sees 1 rotation. I assume that goes poorly. They should put him in pick and roll immediately, every single time down the floor. Full stop. You just put Frank Kaminsky in the pick and roll. See how he holds up until they take him off the floor. So I gave Kaminsky like 5 minutes. He's $1,000. He's pulling 18% ownership. It's about where I think it should be. And then the other thing they're going to do, which is what they did do in game 1, is go to Jay Crowder at the 5. And I like that quite a bit, actually. I think that's going to work pretty well for Phoenix. It's pretty comparable to what Phoenix was seeing against the Clippers when they did not have Ivica Zubac or DeMarcus Cousins on the floor, where they were just going fully small across all 5 spots. They're long enough on the wing with Crowder, with Bridges. You get Torrey Craig or Cam Johnson out there with Booker and Paul if you can. Could switch just about everything. It's not going to be much of an issue. So I think more Jay Crowder at the 5 minutes is the most likely scenario here, especially in the situations where you don't have Brook Lopez out on the floor. When Brook Lopez is out, not on the floor, I think that we get Jay Crowder at the 5.
I think you're right. And one mistake I see made all the time is someone will be like, well, this guy subbed in when this guy got hurt in the 3rd quarter, right? So naturally he has to be the guy to get the starter to, not, as if it's a starter or get that run off the bench. It's not true, because a lot of times coaches are forced to make a split-second decision there, right? A split-minute decision, let's say, where they already have a rotation that was not planned out for the entire game. You can make adjustments on the fly, but you don't have time to actually think through what it's going to look like without said player. So that's why someone like Kaminsky could come in after not playing for a month and then not even leave the bench again today. There's time to prepare for these things, and you can work the rotation around that stuff, like you said, right? You're not going to put Crowder in if he's already in, or if he just came off the floor to be in there for Ayton. Now you can do stuff like that. You can work those rotations around what you actually know. So I wouldn't be surprised if Kaminsky doesn't even get on the floor. It doesn't matter at this point, but if Kaminsky doesn't play, I wouldn't be shocked at all.
No, that wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. I mean, basically we're looking to replace 10 minutes. Ayton foul trouble now is a problem, because you don't want to have to go to someone for additional time. Now, he hasn't been getting into foul trouble, so that's not a huge issue. But now it matters because you can't go to Saric. So we're really just looking to replace 8, 9, 10 minutes.
Right.
That's you can scatter that. You get 1 or 2 rotations with Kaminsky, potentially in a situation where like some of the stars from Milwaukee are off the floor. You go small for a couple extra minutes and you call it a day. It's not ideal. Like losing Dante DiVincenzo for Milwaukee is 100 times worse than losing the backup run for Saric.
For sure. And listen, if this were the regular season, even the beginning of the playoffs, we wouldn't even broach the subject. Like we wouldn't even talk about this. But
no,
it's a single
like
game
if this were in the regular season, Kaminsky would play 16 minutes today.
Right. But we still wouldn't care that Saric is out. We might say, all right, Saric out 16 minutes doesn't make much of a difference because there's just going to be other good plays. I'm curious to know where you stand on some of these mid-range players, because like you said, there's probably 5, 6 guys that make up almost all of that captain spot ownership over on DK. On FanDuel, Giannis getting 52% of the MVP ownership right now. And then it's like Chris Paul, Middleton, a little bit of Booker, falls off a cliff after that. We don't talk as much about FanDuel when it comes to the MVP spot as we do captain spot, because it's a little bit more straightforward than it is on DraftKings. But how do we approach the Brook Lopez's and the Bridges and the Cam Johnson, whose price, I mean, that's a shame. His price
he's unplayable now.
I get it, price him up, but that is such an overcorrection on Cam Johnson that you can't even go near him today.
No, he's $400 more expensive than Jay Crowder. I don't even know how you land on that.
It's nuts.
He's basically impossible to play as far as I'm concerned today.
Gosh, I'll go right back to PJ Tucker if I have to, because I know he's going to give me 33 to 35 minutes.
I'll go to Portis at 3,200, given how bad he looked too. But look, the biggest question is going to be Brook Lopez, and it's this simple. We saw Brook Lopez get absolutely torched in game 1 against Atlanta. And everybody thought
you mentioned that too. Credit to you. You did mention that the place he could be a liability is in pick and roll defense.
And that certainly happened in game 1 of this series as well. Chris Paul was getting every mid-range shot that he wanted. Brook Lopez wasn't getting out on him enough, so they were open looks. Brook Lopez was caught in the middle ground. He wasn't getting out on Paul enough because he was dropping too far. At this point, you've got one of 2 options. You're either not on the floor, or you've got to come out further on Chris Paul and make him make that next decision, whether that's continuing to the rim, where you should have Giannis coming in for weak side help, or he's got to give that ball up to Bridges, Crowder, etc. in one of the corners. So I don't think that Chris Paul is going to get the same sort of open looks in the mid-range. And I think that what we saw in game 2 in the Atlanta series is important, because everybody was writing Brook Lopez off after game 1, and he beat the shit out of Atlanta in game 2 and wrecked them. You just need little tweaks. You can't just immediately cross someone off for a series. Now, Brook Lopez is 7,600 on DraftKings today. So lucky for you guys, it doesn't really matter all that much, because even if he does play more, that price tag sucks.
Oh, it's awful. But I guess the biggest question is, if you were to pull him off the floor, right, it's just liability. He's getting cooked again.
Yep.
Bobby Portis isn't exactly the best defensive alternative.
He is the worst defensive alternative. He was an embarrassment defensively. He has no concept of what to do while he's out there in the pick and roll. The big conversation now is the Bucks going small with Giannis at center, which has to happen. The problem is you immediately have to have someone out on the floor that is going to get cooked in the pick and roll, whether that's Bobby Portis, whether that's Bryn Forbes. Somebody is about to become the target of a pick and roll every time down the floor. What they can't do today that they did in game 1 is play Bobby Portis at the 5 with no Giannis or no Brook Lopez on the floor, because someone's going to get to the rim over and over and over again. Bobby Portis cannot handle that specific matchup. Honestly,
Bryn Forbes might be your best bet, because at least he's somebody that can get you 3 points after giving up a 2. Bobby Portis, fine 3-point shooter. Brook Lopez, but Bryn Forbes is a good 3-point shooter, a really good 3-point shooter who can just simply get very hot from behind the arc and start draining them. I maybe if you have to go with one liability, you go with the guy, because it's not like you're desperate for interior, points. You're not desperate for points in the paint when you already have Giannis out there. But when Drew's not knocking, this is what's so tough about the Bucks, though. Like, Drew and Middleton have been so erratic as shooters, particularly from long range, that it's even tough to bet on these guys because they made it a competitive game. They were at one point they were down by 6 after cutting that 20 or 18 point deficit down, right? Cutting into that in the fourth quarter, down by 6. And then they just start clanking up threes again. And Middleton starts taking these ultra low percentage shots with 6 hands in his face. This team drives me nuts is what I'm saying, because they cut it to 6 despite playing some really shitty basketball for very long stretches of that game.
They're so bad in the half court. And now we are seeing how important not having Dante DiVincenzo out there as a floor spacer is, because he's not going to get cooked in the pick and roll the same way that Forbes would, the same way that Bobby Portis does. He'd be soaking up 30 plus minutes. You wouldn't have to play Forbes as much. Like, I think Connaughton is the guy that's going to be out there the most. I think he has the best opportunity of like being a slightly good enough shooter and not as bad enough of a defender. Whereas Forbes leans more towards better shooting, really bad defense. Portis is whatever. Connaughton to me is the guy that I think could see a slightly increased role as that 5th guy trying to save them in the pick and roll.
Who's the best value on this slate?
Pat Connaughton at 4K, maybe?
Yeah.
It's either Pat Connaughton at 4K or Cam Payne at 3,800.
Okay. I mean, look, I'm not a big, I keep coming back to this, but I'm not a big PJ Tucker guy. He's 8% owned right now, 8% projected ownership, ahead of only Cam Johnson and Abdel Nader. What do you have him in the optimal at?
Tucker?
Yeah.
19.
See what I mean? Like, I still think that PJ Tucker offers better value than he's getting right now, because no one likes playing PJ Tucker. I don't like playing PJ Tucker. It's amazing that I've recommended him in back-to-back games, but there's a real way last game that, his 16 points could have been optimal. Like, obviously in hindsight, it wasn't, but he's actually been productive enough at this price point and is locked into those minutes that you could just do a lot worse than that. And I hate to keep coming back to it, but I probably will have some PJ Tucker again today, especially if ownership settles in and he's still around 10% or sub 10%.
Yeah, he's one of the guys that I'd be more willing to get to. Like, I only think he shows up in the optimal 1 out of every 5 days, but that's significantly more frequent than the public is showing. There's just not a lot of value out there right now. I mean, Forbes at 1,800 is going to be, popular-ish as that pay down punt option. It worked out pretty well in game 1. I don't have an issue with it. I see Forbes and Tucker as very similar options relative to their odds of success. Obviously, Tucker significantly more expensive, but Forbes is pulling twice as much ownership. So to me, in a large field GPP, I think it's just pretty easy to want to try to grab Tucker and be a little bit more unique. There's, to me, no value on the Phoenix side. Like, what you're getting at a campaign. I guess Torrey Craig can, in theory, play more minutes, but he could just as easily play significantly less. Kaminsky is going to be like the play du jour because he's the guy that people think can get more minutes, and he's priced at the flat minimum. I think he's probably going to end up slightly over-owned. I don't think that anybody's like, what we need in the finals? Frank Kaminsky possessions.
I don't think that's going to be the case. Would you rather have 17 minutes from Cameron Payne or 34 minutes from PJ Tucker?
I mean, the answer for me is Cam Payne.
Yeah.
But not by like a ton. I mean, that's basically exactly where I have both of those guys.
I would rather have him I would rather have Cam Payne too, because he's also cheaper than Tucker.
Yeah.
He is getting considerably.
There's an upside on Cam Payne too. That's the thing. Like,
exactly.
There's no, like a PJ Tucker ceiling game is a weird game. Cam Payne can score 20 off the bench.
Exactly. And that's what I like to know about. Even in 17 minutes, he could give you 30 fantasy points. Is it likely? No, but more likely than PJ Tucker doing it. Now he's 4 times as high. He's 4 times the ownership of PJ Tucker, but these are the type of spots that we're going to have to really dig into. And I think those are the spots that might create, I don't want to say solo wins, but that could create some spots, like you said, with captain ownership being all over the map. Maybe you don't have as many chops as last time. I mean, there were a ton of chops, but it was a milli maker. So a lot of people that put, 1 or even 10 lineups in still pulling $4,000 on that win. But there were a lot of chops, Josh. I think it was like 250 or something. A lot.
It was a massive, massive, massive amount. Gave away a lot of free whatevers that week. Not true, actually. No, we didn't, because no one gets one in that scenario.
We would go under. The amount of Awesemo avatars that sent in to Awesemo Hall of Fame and to us, we would not be a website anymore, pretty much.
Nope.
No. But hey, that content we talk about, it's not just here on the YouTube. It's over at awesemo.com. The ownership projections for everything, not just basketball showdown slates, but baseball, football, hockey, MMA, NASCAR, PGA, you name it. League of Legends, all of those esports, player projections, the top stacks tool for baseball, top pitchers tool, the boomer bust tool, the lineup builder. We've got the simulations that Josh talks about. We've got them for all of the sports out there, almost all of them out there. Like, if there's contest on these sites, we've got content for you. Alex Baker, Awesemo himself, the one who just, I forget who mentioned, just took down the 555 and has won a ton of money playing DFS. #1 ranked player in the world. Awesemo himself built these tools, created these tools, uses these tools himself to win a lot of money doing it. And hey, you've seen some Awesemo. You've seen a lot of Awesemo avatars up top there, and that's a really nice thing to see for sure, especially of late. Late in the season, late in NBA. But if you want to check it out, go to awesemo.com/join. And if you want 25% off your first week, use the promo code NBA Strategy Show, all one word, all caps. But you can get a week, do an express pass. You can do a month. You can do a year if you want to make a real investment. One sport, all sports, doesn't matter. We got you covered. And when you join, when you decide to sign up, if you do, join our premium Slack chat, hop in the office hours where you've got the DFS pros over at Awesemo taking your questions, helping you improve your game in a more intimate setting than it would be in, say, Twitter or YouTube chat. Awesemo.com/join. And if you have questions about it further, my DMs are open on Twitter. Feel free to hit me up. Got to follow me first, though, Josh. That's a prerequisite. At Laffy_D. And at Josh Engleman while you're there.
I mean, I'm almost positive this is wrong. The Baller 2234 says Rinpack took home $700K. That's not a true statement, right?
I don't know.
I just feel like I would have known if he had one of the 5 biggest payouts that you could have in a calendar year for DFS. I also don't know how you win $700K either.
I don't know where there would be $700K to be won with the chop.
Yeah, that seems incredibly untrue. I hope it's true. Let me be clear here. I hope Rinpack won all of the money.
He's already just had a phenomenal couple of years. So
yeah, I don't think that Rinpack won $700,000.
I'm not sure where it would come from, but if you did, Rinpack, that's awesome. If you won,
congrats. I don't know how you're not in our Hall of Fame.
Yeah, right. You would think even if we only had that, we'll just leave it up on the screen. Right. And if you use the Awesemo avatar, Josh was mentioned in the Hall of Fame. If you use the Awesemo avatar, go to awesemo.com/avatar. And if you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, it doesn't matter if it's a quarter arcade, a nickel, 20, $100, doesn't matter. You get a free Awesemo Plus Platinum month, $100 value, every single thing on the site. We got you covered. Just tweet at Awesemo HOF with a screenshot of your win. And you can get that Fantasy Cruncher add-on with any of these monthly subs, which is pretty huge. All right. Let's wrap this one up, Josh. Been a good show. We'll put a bow on it. Optimal lineup. What do you have right now? We talked mid-range, we talked high-end, we talked captains and value. What do you got now?
A very surprising optimal, that much I'll say. Devin Booker, captain.
Okay.
Giannis, Middleton, Holiday, Portis, Forbes.
Giannis, Middleton, Holiday, Portis. Oh, wait. So you have one son?
Yeah. So I actually don't hate it if you picture it like this. Okay. If Devin Booker is the optimal captain, it's because Devin Booker probably has 45 real points, which in theory makes Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton slightly less valuable. And if the game is competitive in a Booker, because if Booker's at the top, it's only because he's going bananas from a scoring perspective, bringing down the value of the other pay-up options. If the game is close, then, Giannis, Middleton, Holiday being available for that one isn't crazy to me.
All right. I got you.
If that were Chris Paul captain and the rest of that lineup, I'd be very surprised by that.
It's just the 1-to-5 ratio is an interesting one, especially when Giannis is just so dominant. and eats up so many possessions. But okay, that's what we got right now. Subject to change, of course, but that is the optimal.
We could also look at 0.2 of a point lower than that. Giannis at captain. Booker, Middleton, Holiday, Torrey Craig, Bryn Forbes.
Another $4-2. That's where the value's coming from.
Yeah. And then my third one, which is 0.3 of a point behind that, Giannis captain, Booker, Middleton, Holiday, Portis, Kaminsky.
Ugh. Yeah. So basically all of these have Giannis, Middleton, and Holiday.
Yes.
That is intriguing.
Yeah.
All right. I'm just, this is just personal opinion here, and I'm not running the same numbers you are, but all three of those big $3, it's a little scary to me.
Sure.
Because, yeah, I don't know. I guess they're just so close in price to Paul and Ayton and all of them that, like, what's the likelihood that Middleton, Paul, or Middleton, Holiday, and Giannis do their thing, but only one of Phoenix is worthy of being in the optimal, where three of the Bucks are? Because again, they're all very close to the same price.
I think it makes sense when it's Booker.
Because Booker can be the guy to go nuclear and the rest of the team sits back and enjoys the show.
Yeah, when Booker is an optimal play, it's because his particular trait, which is scoring a lot, is the piece that has to be in play. And the easiest way to get fantasy points is to score.
Yes, that is very true. Eric says, do you guys have any day passes for NBA at this point in the season? No, but I have something better for you. The Express weekly pass is $4.95, I think, a week, Josh. $4.95, $4.99, less than $5 a week for the Express pass. All of our Showdown content, the projections, the ownership, like the single game Showdown rankings, everything for Showdown is included in that. So you still got 6 games. And I think you'll probably get like 4 games out of a weekly pass at this point. So we don't have a day pass, but this is way better than paying a couple bucks for a day pass. Now you're just paying a few dollars for the full week. If you wanted to check that out, Eric.
Yeah. If you did it today, you'd get game 2, 3, and 4 in that week.
Okay. So yeah, it's like what? Around $1.50 a game.
Yeah. That's not bad.
$1.65 a game. It's not bad at all. As a matter of fact. David Porter, can't believe I agree with Josh. This is the first time for everything. All right, man.
I'm going to change all of my data now.
You guys can check these shows out in podcast form too. If you're wondering, maybe you hate the overlords at the YT, or just, you don't like putting your phone in your pocket. You don't have YouTube Premium and you don't want to waste your battery. You do our Awesemo podcast platform. Go to Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you prefer to get your podcast. We got you covered there, especially these ones that actually have shelf life earlier in the day. Josh and Ben with the breakfast menu coming out shortly. And we got content all day long here at Awesemo. Thanks for hanging out. Any thoughts, Josh, before we get out of here?
Yeah, one, Ben cleaned his plate on Tuesday with his NBA bets, 3-0. So see what we're doing there? So he's coming in on a bit of a heater. We haven't talked FanDuel. Do you want to hit some FanDuel optimals before we get out of here?
Oh yeah, that's right. My fault. Yep. Go ahead.
No worries. We had a couple people asking. FanDuel optimal is obviously going to look a lot more reasonable at the top. Giannis MVP, Booker star, Holiday pro, Connaughton Bridges is the optimal for me right now.
Do you like it?
Yeah. It's really hard to have a lineup that doesn't look good on FanDuel. Like the second optimal is Giannis, Booker, Holiday, but instead of Connaughton Bridges, it's Tucker Bridges, and you save an extra $500. Or Giannis, Booker, Ayton, Connaughton Bridges.
You're right. It's way easier to get a lineup you feel good about on FanDuel than it is on DraftKings. There's no doubt about that. Because
the problem is, like, the difference between you winning the tournament and losing it might just be because you have Booker at star and Holiday at pro, and that's flip-flopped. And that makes you want to jump off of a bridge.
Right, exactly. And the difference between like Giannis and Chris Paul is only $1,000. But, if you're playing both of them, there's no risk to putting the one that's projected for more points in the MVP spot. Whereas with DraftKings, you're paying more for him. You're getting more points, but it changes everything up. So it's just an entirely different strategy. The whole structure is wildly different. So again,
I'm looking at something quickly.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna flip flop this lineup right now. So Devin Booker here, and then this becomes Pat Connaughton. So if the only difference in these lineups is, so I read my optimal: Giannis MVP, Booker star, Holiday pro, Connaughton Bridges. If you just do that same lineup, but you flip flop Holiday and Booker, the difference is 1.5 fantasy points. Same exact salary. There's no they're barely different lineups, but the probabilities will be slightly different based on who is in each one of those spots. And then simply the ownership is dramatically different. You can find value, just because that first one is my optimal, if the ownership is dramatically different for the second one could be significantly better and you're only giving up 1.5 points.
Right.
Well inside the error bars for basically no change whatsoever to this lineup. You're getting an extra 25% to Holiday over Booker. That's weird.
That's a good point. Yeah. There's ways to make subtle changes that can take you a long way on a slate like this, for sure.
Yeah, if I project Drew Holiday for an extra fantasy point, these two lineups end up basically equal.
Yeah, sure.
1 minute is basically if I give Drew Holiday 1 additional minute, those two lineups are a push, basically. Yep. It's weird to think about on FanDuel. Just moving the multipliers around is what really changes the game.
Well, we'll see who wins tonight, but we will be back. Not you. I believe it's Greg and myself for NBA Live Before a Lock.
It is. I'll be in chat.
What's that?
I'll be in chat. I'm coming to hang out.
Take you straight up till 9 p.m. Hopefully you will join us for that. And while you're at it, we've got the MLB Strategy Show starting in exactly 1 minute. You got Greg Ehrenberg and Adam Scher. Nice little pairing there. MMA Strategy Show, 4 p.m. Jason Floyd and Pete Rogers. Then the MLB Deeper Dive, then Live Before Lock. Then, of course, 8 p.m., the crescendo, the finale here, Greg and myself, Live Before Lock. I also heard that you are going to be doing an MMA. We're doing a 2-hour block of MMA. Well, I thought we were.
Yeah, we're not.
Oh, okay. But I'm not crazy, right? That was something that was floated around.
It was.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll talk off the air. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Hit that thumbs up before you go. Always a pleasure. We'll catch you back here later on the NBA Strategy Show presented by No House Advantage.